So, welcome to All About Energy Life because that's what we live in an energy life, right, Tracie?
That's right. Yeah,
And I'm Sabah, and I'm joined with the lovely Tracie today, and we're going to talk about a very fun topic.
we are going to talk about a fun topic and one that I think everyone that has a QHHT session should watch this video.
Absolutely. It's really discussing what to expect after your session. Tracie and I have done a series of a couple of videos on how to prepare, and we thought it would be fun to really go over what to expect after your QHHT session, right, Tracie?
Absolutely, because people are surprised afterwards, and so we want to get real clear about it. That's what our goal is today.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with what I kind of go over with my clients on how to proceed after their session. Sometimes the sessions are just so intense and there's a lot of information that comes through. So naturally, whenever you do any kind of work similar to this or QHHT, you want to have some grace and time for yourself and really give yourself time to integrate. Really important process to the QHHT session. For me, what that looks like is after the session, kind of having a little quiet, really centering yourself, taking some journal notes after the session prior to listening to the recording. And then, of course, when you're ready, with no pressure, when you're ready to listen to that session, take some notes as well. And we'll go into some other helpful hints on what to do and what you could expect after a session.
Yeah. One thing I want to say too with that, with re-listening to the session, is so important. You need to re-listen to your session because you're not going to get all the information the first time around. You're just not. And there's little hidden pearls in there, and you're going to hear them the next time you listen. And then you could listen again, and you could actually hear things differently than you heard them the first time because you're evolving. And so it's really important to give it, I would say, at least 2 to 3 listens over a course of time. You don't have to, it makes sense to stretch that out a little bit, but I recommend people listen at least 3 times over the course of, say, 6 months or something, so that you can keep integrating, keep integrating, keep integrating. There's wisdom in there that you forgot about, and so it's important to re-listen.
100%. And sometimes if someone really needs to integrate, they'll listen to it on the daily. Like I've had clients say, you know what, I listen to this daily. Of course, when you're in a relaxed setting, you don't want to do it when you're driving or anything, but just when you're having a relaxed moment to really get that information soaked in.
Yeah.
And then, like you were saying, Tracie, which was amazing, you're evolving. So I listened to sessions that I received 6 years ago and they hit me different where I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Saba is
this,
completely different from 6 years ago.
oh yeah, I'm totally different. Like, who am I?
Transformation. Yeah, it's crazy to think back at those times and the questions that we had then and what we would ask now versus what we asked way back. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the information, for whatever reason, again, it's not going to ripple the timelines, right? So whatever you're supposed to hear at that time will make sense. I had one, oh, Tracie, I have a really fun one where I had a session that didn't make sense whatsoever. It was like a very random message about someone in my family, quite concerning. And I was like, what does that even mean? It was just
Mm.
a random, like, blurt out from my higher self that I know was not in my psyche, right? And about 3 years later, that family member randomly said something to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, so my higher self was telling the truth. I'm glad you're okay.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, I just probably didn't need to hear it at that time. But because I got that message, I had delivered a message to them and they like full stopped whatever they were, you know? And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't make it up. And I love that you're telling people journal. So when you're done with your session, here's the thing, you go through past life, maybe just one, maybe two, depending on what your session was like. But you didn't get all of it, right? You got the days that we were taking you to, but in truth, you got downloaded with that whole entire lifetime. So I always recommend to my clients, go home and write out that lifetime, and notice you'll get more and more details. Write them out. Any extra information that's coming, write it out. And, and do that. I recommend people do that before they re-listen too, is write out that past life, because
Yeah.
you're going to get more details with it. You got this day and that day and this important day and that important day, but there's all the days in between, and you're going to have information on those as well. So if you sit down and just write those out, that's a powerful thing. Here's another thing I want to touch on, because these are very important sessions. And even when you go to a practitioner, because I've had people contact me and go, oh, I went to a practitioner, whether they're an intern, a level 1, level 2, level 3, don't care. You go to a session and you're going to the very exact and perfect session for you. It doesn't matter who's conducting it. As you picked them, they resonated with you, you went there, and let's say you couldn't go under, or you weren't getting information, you weren't getting the SC, the higher self, coming in and giving you information. I hate to break it to you, but you got the perfect session for you. Go figure out why. Why did that not happen? Because it actually was the perfect session for you. There's something there for you to learn. I know it's frustrating, but and I hate to be the messenger of that one, right? That even the bad sessions are perfect, because your higher self wasn't bringing those answers in for a reason. There's something going on. Is there a block going on? The next time, I had so many people that would go to a session and they just couldn't get anywhere. And then they go and try it again, and they have amazing sessions because they let go of all that resistance or trying to control it. That's the thing people do too. So let's touch on that. They want to control the session. You're trying too hard. Just let it happen. Let it flow. I'll hand that over to you on some of,
Yeah,
like,
you're really touching on some amazing topics, Tracy, because absolutely. This is what I do a visual for my clients. Okay. Here
mm,
is the higher self floating by, ready for you to contact. And if you start doing this, looking for it, you're going to pass it right by. Okay. You just got to trust. You got to let go. And so what happens is stage hypnosis has done a little bit of a number for the expectations of QHHT. Because when people see someone in hypnosis on the stage, they see their consciousness completely step out and all of a sudden they're quacking like a duck, right? So
right.
in QHHT, the expectation is, oh my gosh, that's the kind of um, consciousness I want to be part of, of like, I don't want to remember anything because then I know it's real. And it's like, okay, there's a little bit of a trust issue. Like, where's the imagination? Where's the flow? Like, it's okay. You're super perfect with the information that's flowing through. And so, what happens to like even Tracy or myself, like when the group of us get together, we'll just kind of be talking and, we'll get like an intuitive information and be like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling this because we're stepping into that trust. So, I really think it's just stepping into that trust of like who you are. And for those that are fighting it, when it comes to the session, it's really just trusting to let go, to speak the very first thing that comes to your mind with a lot of detail and just letting go of that wanting to like be on top of it and like, why am I present or why am I hearing you? Or why does it feel like we're having a discussion like we just were on that sofa? Because your higher self has always been part of you. It was actually part of the conversation when you were on the sofa.
Yeah,
It was part of
absolutely.
the conversation when you came up with the questions. It was part of the conversation when you called and we booked the session. It's always a part of you. And
It's always
so,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
This is what I tell people. If the answer comes in, I think, or um probably, or something like that, with like questionable answers, that's your ego side, that's your critical mind. And when the answers just come in, you know, Tracy da da da, Tracy da da da, and the answers just are flowing, that's your higher self. If they are flowing and non-fear based, your higher self isn't going to use fear-based things. They're not, your higher self isn't going to scare you. That is all that critical mind trying to seep in there. uh
Hmm.
one of the things I tell my clients is to use the imagination and go into that space, because when you are in the imagination, your critical mind cannot jump in. You're in that other hemisphere of the brain. And so the critical mind has to go take a seat. So if I said, I want you to imagine you're sitting in a car, what kind of car is it? Right now, you got to make that up, right? You're going to imagine your most favoriteest car in the universe and be sitting in that, at least I hope you are. And so your imagination, you get to use that part. But if I was like, okay, so Sabah, what kind of car do you drive? Now you're in your critical mind and you're just calling your car. So be in those beautiful little moments. I always say, tell it to me like you're telling a child a fairy tale at bedtime.
Yeah.
Just make something up. If you get stuck, and I know it sounds weird, you guys, I know it sounds weird, but it gets you out of the critical mind, and then it will start to flow. And if you can
Well,
do it, helps.
absolutely. I actually use that very same line on a 16-year-old, and I've talked about this on a recent video that you and I did about preparing for the session. And I asked a 16-year-old to just go ahead. And again, 16-year-old with the permission of parents, FYI, because the parents were like, nope, we got to get this done. And our kid needs a session. They drove in from North Carolina. So I said, go ahead, and I want you to read a fairy story, nighttime story, but you're going to relax your eyes. And she went ahead for like 10 minutes, and like a 16-year-old would. It's a fairy garden. There's like bunny rabbits and all these amazing things. And then when the imagination just was let loose, we ended up at a castle. It was really not a good castle. And she had some sort of injury in her stomach, and it was a very powerful session. Information that needed to come through, but that happened with, again, trusting and letting go and letting the imagination come through. So I think it's just so important. But, you know, as practitioners, we can only do so much to explain to you that, hey, you really need to let the imagination run wild, to let that information just flow through. I mean, we try to explain how important it is, and then trust and let go.
And I'm going to go back to, you know, and if it doesn't flow that first time around, you go to a session and you're feeling stuck and it doesn't flow and you're frustrated. Your practitioner is probably doing everything they can to help you with that. But it is
9 times out of 10, it's not the practitioner. Let's say that. It just isn't.
But the important thing is to know that it is the perfect session for you, because look what you discovered. You're discovering that you're trying to control something, or that your frustration is blocking you from the flow of life or something like that. What happened and how did it make you feel? Those are very important things. And so you're even re-listening to that, so you can hear the parts you play in that frustration when the practitioner is asking you questions. How are you responding to them? Are you going quickly into, I don't know, or are you trying? Are you allowing yourself to be in that flow of things? But listening again, or at least looking back at it and looking at what positive thing came out of it. What did I learn from going to that lesson or to that session? What did I learn? And then maybe you try it again and see how it goes the next time. But practice with some recordings on YouTube, meditation, guided meditations. Allow your imagination to just go with the guided meditations and start practicing letting that imagination play. Make up a story. Sit down before you go to your session. Sit down and just write a story. Just make it up out of nowhere. That's the part of the mind we want to use when we are in the sessions. So I'm getting all kinds of tickles. I don't know who's got loved ones, but when my nose starts itching and my hair's, you know, I'm like, it always means somebody's loved one is here. So Sabah, somebody, if you're thinking of someone, they're here, they're saying hi. But
is it male or female?
well, the first person I want to say is it's your dad.
Yeah, it was my dad. I knew it. I literally was like, it's my dad. He's been around.
I'm like, stop playing with my hair. I'm trying to do a video.
Yeah, he's been around for 2 days. And I smelled his cologne yesterday,
That's
late
very sweet.
evening. And one of my friends came over and was like, kind of like looking like him a little bit. And I was like, what is going on,
Oh,
Dad? I miss you. So
oh,
yeah, I miss
interesting.
him.
Yeah. Well, hello, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Okay, let's talk about a couple more things that happened. So we touched on the fact that people get a little bit curious about, well, I felt like I was awake the whole time. I felt like we were like I was just talking to you. You are still under hypnosis. I know that sounds weird, but you're under a hypnotic state when you're driving a car, reading a book, watching TV. You're actually,
Swimming, running.
yeah, anything. You're actually in a hypnotic state. Levels of hypnosis are different, but you're in a hypnotic state, and most people are in a hypnotic state 90% of the day. You are
That's
only in
why the
a state when
news
you're, yeah,
is
like this would be conscious because we're having a conversation. But before Sabah called, I was at my desk doing some work, and I was thinking about other things and creative things and blah blah blah. And that's a hypnotic state. So you can go in hypnosis, you do it all day long, and you're hearing, like, if I'm sitting there working on something and one of my kids comes in and asks me a question, I hear what they're saying and I'm answering them, but I'm still focused on what I'm doing. That that would be comparable. You're hearing us, you're going to hear your practitioner, you're going to carry on a conversation with your practitioner, and you're going to be very relaxed, and just allow yourself that relaxation, allow yourself to sink into it, and just be relaxed and have a conversation. Don't worry if you're doing it right or wrong. Don't sit there and try to figure out, am I under? Am I under? I hear that one a lot. Am I under? I was sitting there wondering if I was under. I don't know if I'm under. Well, when you do that, you're pulling yourself out. So I encourage people, please don't do that. If you start doing that, send that part of your mind to sit on a bench, because it's pulling you out of hypnosis when you go, am I under? Am I under? Because that's bringing in your critical and conscious mind.
absolutely really important to take some nice deep breaths and just to trust the information coming through. I like to share this little statement too during session is that the question that a lot of people ask is, does everyone have a certain gift or psychic ability? And the answer is yes. The only difference between those that acknowledge it and those that don't know it yet is the trust, really.
Yeah.
You step more into your gifts and your knowingness when you have the trust and you know that you're right on, and that just goes with practice and just letting go and trusting yourself.
Yeah.
So if I could probably give the biggest advice is to really just let go and trust yourself with whatever information comes through without any preconceived ideas of what hypnosis looks like, minus out stage hypnosis out of your mind, that's what will happen to you, because that's not what's happening.
No,
No.
no. And another thing about hypnosis is we can't force you into hypnosis. That you're and if you are ever at any point uncomfortable, you just open your eyes and
Right.
and you're out of it. So you don't have to worry if going under hypnosis, because I've had a lot of people that are like, I don't know about hypnosis, I'm worried about it because of things they saw on TV or stories they've heard. So do know that there's nothing we're going to do in a session that you can't. If you are, like we already said, you're going to be aware of what we're saying and aware of what you're saying, most likely. The odds of you being knocked out and come back later and somebody tells you what happened is like a 1% chance. That's not a zero, but it is very, very slim. So you're going to hear us, you're going to know what we're saying, you're going to know what you're saying. So if at any point you are not comfortable, or sometimes people go through an intense past life and that might bring them up. And then your practitioner would work with you with that. But you can come up, you can take yourself out of it. So don't worry about that part. It's safe in the regards of you're in full control.
And I like that. I'll be honest with you. If I don't think I would be a practitioner if you weren't in control. I don't know if I would be comfortable with someone not being in control. I think it's
I
really
agree.
important. I think it's amazing that you are in control. It's kind of like the sage sitting in front of your session and you're the sage. And the sage is saying to you, if you want to enter, you got to trust. And you just got to trust the very first thing that comes to your mind and just let go. And so, what's amazing is the more you let go and the deeper you go with the story, the wider the channel of information comes through and the more detail that appears with that life.
Absolutely.
So it's always a case like anybody that just lets go and keeps talking, keeps talking. Now, granted, I come out of session and I'm like, gosh, did I make that up? I mean, it for a second I do think it. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. For a second, I'm just like, whoa, that was pretty wild, you know. And then I'm like, no, Sabah, you did not trust it, like, you know. And then I sit down with it and I just kind of flow, you know. But sometimes we're human. Of course, we're gonna think like, where did that come from? But then I really don't focus on that because I'm not doing past life regression tourism for myself. When I go under, I'm really wanting to learn the lesson and to learn what I need to integrate in this life that I'm existing in and understand the information that was shared to help me. And so I
Yeah.
kind of just focus on that more than anything. And then I'm just like, okay, let me see what the lessons are here. What can I take away from this that can improve my life? And I can be a better person and maximize the most amount of time that I have in this incarnation. And so, what is the past or present or future showing me so that I can maximize my time in this incarnation? So, that's pretty much what I step away with sessions that I receive and try to understand what the meaning of it was.
I like what you were saying, talk and talk a lot. You guys, the more you talk, the deeper you're going to go under. I want to do a little sample of that. I'm going to be the client and you're going to ask me a question. We're going to do two things. I'm going to be the client that doesn't talk a lot. And that's very challenging for a practitioner, FYI. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll be the client that talks a lot. And I want you guys to close your eyes and feel the difference. You're going to close your eyes, not me. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to feel the difference of these answers. Okay, so ask me a question.
All right. What are you feeling?
Nothing.
Tell me more about nothing.
I'm just blank, not feeling anything.
And how does it feel to be blank and not feeling anything?
Confusing.
Tell me more about confusing.
I'm just confused.
Oh, confused. Hmm.
Okay, so you can see where Saba's sitting there going, okay, what do I ask this person next? Because they're not giving much. Okay. And also as a listener with your eyes closed, you're sitting there going, okay, I'm not feeling much either. Okay, so now ask me the same question.
Mm. All right. Tell me what you're feeling.
Well, I'm feeling kind of excited. I've got a lot of energy swirling around me. There's a lot of colors going on. I feel almost like I'm in a vortex. And when I'm in the vortex, it feels like there's a lot of almost like little beings, like if I'm in a fairy realm or something, like little orbs or life forms all around me while I'm in this. And the colors are luminescent, and there's some colors that I don't even know I've seen before in like a human form, like rainbow colors, but these are almost like layered. They're like layered colors. And I feel like I'm in the middle of it. And I feel like if I wanted to, I could fly,
Wow. Tell me more.
right?
Yeah. So now, pause.
Pause.
The listener is going to listen to that and be like, but then I'm making the whole thing up.
I was in it. I just allowed myself, like I didn't know what I was gonna say before Saba asked the question.
Right.
I just I let the
It was
pictures of
pure
my
imagination.
mind. Yeah, I
Right.
just overflow. And it was kind of fun when the sparkly things came in and they were buzzing around like little fairies. Um,
Okay.
I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that in my imagination. And I want you to notice my eyes were going up, which is me being in my imagination, pulling this information from the ethers. And so I actually went to some little realm with all these colors and energy and swirlingness and little fairy-like beings. I was there.
Yeah. So the thing that I try to go over with that making up thing, or like, how do I know it was me, is explaining that, a lot of who we are the higher perspective, more so than we really realize. I mean, this is a very new concept ish where we're really noticing everyone in. I mean, there's a lot of different modalities that are talking about the higher self or the subconscious, and people are talking about the how much of it is actually the consciousness, so to speak. So I
Mhm.
think there's such a beautiful awareness happening right now with regards to, well, I think I'm making it up. Well, who's I? Right? That's such a good question. Like, I think I'm making it up. Who do you think is feeding you the information?
Right.
Right? Like
Our
who do you think was just like giving you that message like, "Hey, you probably should turn right, not left," or you should probably pick up the phone and call your mom, or you should getting a little nudge of like, I probably should book a session, or I feel like resonate with this person. You're like, where's all that information coming from? And so what
right.
happens is the expectation of higher self, like I'm just going to meet you for the very first time, being in a QHHT session, it's like, oh, my dear, your higher self has been with you your entire life.
Yeah. And I like what you said. Who's giving you that nudge to book that session in the first place?
Right.
That's yourself. Yeah. So beautiful. I love it.
Right.
All right. So talk and talk a lot
Mm-hmm.
and trust yourself. Trust that you're under, talk and talk a lot. And when you get done with the session, yeah, you might feel like, oh, did I just make that all up? Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? It's a good story. Go listen to it again, see if it holds something for you. Because it's like, a past life. Unless you're giving extreme detail and dates and names, full names and descriptions, you're not going to know if that's for real or not. But I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, well, I'm not sure how I feel about past lives. And then they go into one and they're crying or they see somebody that they know in that lifetime. They just love that person and they have all of these emotions and connections to it. And they'll be like, I was so surprised. I feel like I made it up, and I'll say, do you feel like you made up that connection when you started crying too? Or, it's like, we live in a multi-dimensional reality. We are quantum and we are having experiences all over the place, so many lifetimes. So why would you doubt that you're connecting with one of them?
Right. And if you do, that's your journey.
And
That you got exactly what you were supposed to get in the session.
yeah,
And sometimes it takes time. I've had clients where they walk out of session, they're just kind of like, okay, that was great. And then like 6 months later, they're like, oh my gosh. It takes time to integrate. And that's where the work as a practitioner came in, because that was something I needed to work on too, because, there's this instant gratification world, right? And so we just have to kind of let the client walk, have their session, and trust that they are going to walk into the information how they're supposed to at the time that they're supposed to, and it'll click exactly in precision. And so this instant gratification, as practitioners, we look for it too, but that's a little thing that we have to work on to not get tied up in their story. We have to trust that it's going to happen and unfold in perfection.
yeah, yeah. We all have to let go of our attachments around these sessions. You're attached to how it's going to go, or the the video you saw on YouTube, or whatever that might be. Let go of those attachments when you walk in the door. Have the best session. It's your session. Just enjoy what's coming through for you. And when you leave, trust that the information you got was exactly the information you needed, regardless of how you felt your session went. It was perfect.
Yeah. Because you're perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I would say also celebrate the little wins. Okay. Another thing that I explain to clients is if you notice a synchronicity, like it could be something so simple, Like, for example, I had a client that saw a snake in their session that was so rare. Like, I mean, the markings on this snake was just kind of like, I've never heard of it. And hours later, they were at a store and they found that exact snake in the store for sale. And they're like, what the heck? And I was like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, you just
No.
can't, you know. So celebrating those wins of like, oh my God, the synchronicity. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Or and noticing the small things. And that's why it's so important to journal and so important to listen to your session, because
Yeah.
that'll help you to really see. And because you got the door open. And so what's really important is to get that door wide open. And that's by noticing the synchronicities. Two, I also explain to people like, look, you understand the energy of the higher self when the answers come through, what it feels like, right? Because I do a little rapid fire so they can kind of feel which way is the right answer. And I say, okay, now for the next few days, practice muscle memory. Keep working with that so that you
Yeah.
can build a really strong connection with your higher perspective.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah. So there's so many little things that I thought it would be so important for us to share today on what do you do after the session? You know, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think we've covered most of what we wanted to
Yeah.
cover today.
Integrate. Trust you have the perfect session and go integrate it and make sure to re-listen to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, anything else you want to bring up, Tracy, with
Um,
sessions or anything like that?
I want
I
to
think we
talk a little
covered
bit.
it.
I think we covered the sessions, but can I take a peekaboo with you about a little business thing you're doing? Can we
Uh,
get moved to a different topic?
oh yeah, sure. I'm
All
I'm
right.
I'm doing I started something. Well, it chose me. Like, you want to talk about synchronicity. Like, it was not something that I was thinking about. It just kept evolving strong and fast. Business alchemy consultation, where I sit with business individuals who are thinking to start a business or they're already multimillionaires and expanding to other countries. I've got clients overseas, I've got clients here, and it's a 1 hour session where I sit down with them and we strategize together. It's a really
Wow.
beautiful session, and I love them. The clients are just amazed. So, what happens to me is when I have a session that's booked, I basically see their pieces is their information is for me
Yeah.
it's pieces, and so they share, and then I help organize their business, but in a way that they can understand it with a different perspective. And so what happens is as we're going through this wonderful collaboration of information, then the pyramid starts being built in my mind's eye. And
Mhm.
then when all the pieces are arranged the way they can, then boom, they have that activation and
Wow.
they're ready for the next phase of growth in their business. And it's really been phenomenal. The interesting thing is that I was already doing this when I was helping people, you know, and I still with their portfolios in real estate.
Yeah.
So I own multiple companies, and one of the companies is a real estate firm that I own. And so I was always doing that. But now that I'm in the energy world, like you said, I'm a completely different person 6 years later. I'm able to understand that energetically so I can actually apply what I was doing naturally into different businesses to help people grow their wealth.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, it's fun.
I know
It's
there's
really
so many
fun.
people out there that are probably like, yes, please. Yeah. I do. I love it.
Sign me up. Yeah, it's been really fun. So it's an exciting
Well, this
journey.
is, I'm going to say this, with QHHT, I know that it helped me move so much of my blocks, and I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing today if it wasn't for the sessions with QHHT, opening me up. And so I think this line of work, if you're a practitioner or if you've had a session, it can open you up to all these other things that are going on around you, like what you just talked about, Sabah, where this information is just happening, and you know, the work that you're doing with it and how you're, I like that you say it comes in these pieces. It's almost like you're putting this little puzzle together, right? You're just, where does all this go?
Yeah.
And this line of work, being in the flow of things and trusting the higher self and starting to trust that voice that's talking in your head. And where is it taking us? It's like, as we look at this, as we're meeting up with other practitioners and just other like-minded people, it's an exciting ride. But what you're offering there with the business alchemy is that's going to be helpful for a lot of people that are moving out of corporate world into a spiritual business and don't really know how to integrate that. You'd be the person to call up.
Right.
love
I actually have been working with some that stepped out of these very high ranking corporate positions that just turned away and said, I'm done. And now they're walking into the spiritual realm or something that's more satisfying for their soul. And it's kind of like, now what do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah, I know. That kind of information that to help get things started and get that business mindset. Because I know when I was in the corporate world, the idea of doing my own business, doing the work didn't scare me. It was, how do I run a business by myself? And it
Right.
was, how do you incorporate some of this stuff? How do I incorporate the spiritual thing? And like a lot of us, it's hard to ask for that payment or see our self-worth because of all the things that, I grew up Catholic, and there was a lot of things to overcome with that. Being the martyr, or being, this is a spiritual gift and I should just offer it. Well, then I have to do a day job all day, so I'm not available to offer it. So I had to overcome a lot of things in order to get where I am now. And now, is this stuff that you work with your alchemy class?
Right. So business alchemy is interesting because the client can come in fully intention on like, hey, we're thinking about expanding in this state or this country.
Mm-hmm.
But then the session's taking it more to pieces that are showing up in their personal life. And so very similar to like an NBA player that's not hitting their 3 pointers and they sit down and work with someone and will come to find out it's actually an argument that they had with their wife 2 nights ago. There's some
Uh,
energy blockages there. So when I'm working with these pieces and the pyramid's being built, and if I'm like, wait a minute, we're missing some information, or I'm not able to build the whole, like the pyramid's not complete. And then I keep getting pulled into something that's happening personally. Then we basically receive the information. I go through that, and we may spend a good chunk of information time there because let's face it, your business is a reflection of you within. And so is everything else for that matter. Everything is a reflection of you inside. And so if it's something that's over here that has to do with mom and we work on that piece, then you'll see that the business flows because you worked on it. You didn't realize how much it was actually a reflection of you and your business.
yeah. Wow.
So it just really depends where we go. And I just, again, because of QHHT, learning to trust, and trust, I was able to step into this part of me that I've always been doing my life, but now I have recognition and acknowledgement of like why I'm able to work with it so well. And it's like, oh, because I understand it. I've always been doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And
So it's
and
been
now you're
fun.
helping other people do it. I love it.
Yeah. 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 It's a fun, it's very rewarding because I love it. I love money. You know, all my
And we
friends,
also love them.
all my friends be picking on me about that, but I really love it, and so it makes sense to me. It's a very easy language. I get it, and so it's just one language that sometimes we're just this beautiful rainbow of energies, and there may be an energy like, for example, I did a session with you. Holy guacamole! Okay, that session super intense. If you can, guys, and you're listening to this recording, book a session with her. She's got these amazing activations, sessions that are, again, you got to step into trust, you got to let go, and the sky's the limit. I would say, I think I've done 2 or 3 by now with you over the years, and right?
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
the ascension
The
activation
I'm
sessions.
sorry, the ascension activations, and
Yeah.
they keep getting more intense. Like really, I feel like I stepped more into an activation. I mean, this last one was just kind of like speechless. I mean, really, I wish I could have talked more. I really, I couldn't. I was just so deep in this session. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
You know, we go through these times in our lives where a lot of things are going on and a lot of intense, you know, changes or whatever that are happening. And these sessions are really good to go into relationships, go into work things. A lot of so when I go into the channel with the Octurians with Daniel, um,
Right. This is a kind of session where Tracie talks, where it's not that the practitioner the client needs to talk. It's cool if you do, but this is where you're channeling. Exactly. I want to
channeling,
clarify that before people are like, what?
right.
Why does
That's
it
right.
apply
This is
there,
not
not
QAT.
QHHT?
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, it was, I want to work with people all over the world, and QHHT are in-person only sessions.
Yeah.
Um, But when the channeling started, it opened that door for me to be able to work with people all over the world. It's been amazing. And, but yeah, the things that will come in, sometimes it's beyond me. So you're right with the whole trust thing. You've got to trust it, because there's been times that I've sit there and go, "You making this stuff up?" Or, you know, but then something will be said in those sessions that I'll be like, I couldn't even make that up if I tried. You know, it's a powerful thing. Um, but it'll get into blocks that you might have energetically. It'll get into, they'll do body scans for you and look to see if there's anything uh, energetically that needs moved. If I remember right, we were
Yeah, with
thinking of
me,
yours. It
yeah,
was
it was, it even worked on
scanning
two
the
of,
crown chakra.
they were scanning my crown chakra big time. And then I felt completely like wide open the whole time after session. Like, wow, it's just like my head feels so clear.
Yeah,
And then they worked on two of my homes that I own, which was cool too. I
yeah,
was like, okay, y'all, thank you. That was so
yeah.
awesome.
From what I remember about that too is, and we forget about these things, you know, it's like we forget to bless the land that
Mm.
we're sitting on, to appreciate everything that was here before the house was here, you know. Um, I did a, I had a reading with somebody, this is years ago, and she was like, there's an evil elf in my house. And she was saying this little elf was running around doing things, and she actually could physically see this thing in her room one night. And at that point she's like, nope, nope, gotta call Tracie, this is a real thing. So she calls me up, and it turns out that it was a tree gnome, and the house that they had moved into was a new home. They were the first owners of it, and they had cut down a tree, put the house there.
Mm.
And so this was that gnome's tree, so it lived under their house. And it actually turned out to be a really cute story. It liked it. She had, her kids were little at the time, and they had a swing set in the backyard. And I mean, it's showing me all these things. I had never been to her house. I'm describing her house perfectly, which was freaking her out. I was just like, this little guy's talking to me, he's telling me. So, anyways, what he ended up doing, that because she was apologizing that the house was built on his home, and so he invited them to come out and help him find, her and her kids come out and help me find a new home, a new tree. And he said, I want to be
Mm.
in the backyard because I like watching the kids play, and I want to be by the water, which they had a little creek run by. And I got pictures afterwards. They had went to the craft store and bought little doors and windows, and they put it up on a tree, and they gave him a little driveway, and he had a little garage. I mean, it was super cute. And she said after that day, the they never had another experience in the house. It was done. You can't make
Wow.
that stuff
Wow.
up. It's like
I'm still afraid though. I'm not gonna lie. That story freaked me out.
yeah, well, it freaked her out too, but then, you know, they made nice, and then they ended
Yeah.
up partying instead of a little freedom gnome bouncing around their house.
Oh yeah. No, I totally understand.
But the
I
fact that
totally
it
get it.
all stopped, you know, it's like even her husband, who was not a believer at all, said, you call your woo-woo friend and see
You call
figure
your
out what's
woo-woo
going on.
friend.
Yeah, because here they're in this brand new house. And I remember her getting that house because she had two houses she was looking at. And she had called me up for that and she said, how will I know the right house? And I said, I think her grandfather had passed, or somebody in her family had recently passed. They said they're going to leave a dime in the house so you'll know which one it is. And she was going up the stairs and looked down and there was a dime in this house
Oh,
sitting on.
wow.
She was like calling me up, freaking out. There was a dime.
That's the
I forgot.
one.
I forgot. I forget my readings. I'm like, okay. And she's like, you did. Oh. It's like, so anyways, I know there was a special connection with all of that. And we have to understand that all of this stuff is orchestrated, right? Like them being in that house was no mistake. Somebody else wouldn't have been able to help that spirit, that spirit gnome
Mm,
get resolved from his tree,
mm,
you
mm.
know. So there's just a lot of connections to a lot of things that we don't know. We orchestrate and design. Like I said, we're in these quantum realities. We're
Yeah.
that's
If you
not
want clarity on that kind of stuff, you call Tracy. Don't call Sabah. You
so
could
these
call
are
me
the
about aliens. I don't mind. I can talk aliens all day long, baby. But yeah.
yeah. And that's, and aliens is the design of the ascension session, is finding out where did you come from? Why are you here? What are these connections that you have to the
Uh-huh.
earth, to the ascension, to each
Right.
other, to whatever. So they're fascinating. I love the sessions. They're fun.
Mhm.
But I love all the work that I do. It's everything that we do. We're living in a whole different world now. So
Oh, totally. Like I see so many people, even after QHHT, when they come in for a session, they're just living this totally different life, some of them, because they step into these gifts.
yeah,
Because QHHT can be also very like you said, activating, like you can remember certain things and they'll call you and say, oh yeah, I'm doing Reiki now, I'm doing prana or whatever different modalities. They're like, yeah, it's just interesting how this all just unfolded.
yeah.
So I think anytime you can step into any work, especially with Tracy, like it's no joke, Tracy, your sessions are very intense, amazing sessions. Really be open to the magic that unfolds afterwards in your world and
Yeah.
really celebrating those moments, be it small, but those synchronicities are where you build those larger moments because sometimes you'll walk out of a session and not really pay attention to something because you didn't pay attention to the other things. Does that make sense? They're like all interconnected,
They're all like,
interwoven.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the littlest things you don't know are important. Like the the channeling that we're talking about. When one day I just spent like a whole day with my friend's daughter running around doing errands and everything, and then later she wanted a reading, and with the channeling, and they recapped our whole day and showed us how every little thing, even going through the Starbucks drive-through to get dragon drinks, was important. And the conversation we had while we were sitting there waiting for the drinks and all this stuff. And it was like, that was just mind blowing to me. It's like all the things matter.
All the
And
little things do.
all of it.
I had once, I've got to share this story. Why? Because my higher self's telling me. Okay, so I basically did a merger with a very large company. They wanted me to merge my company, and I was kind of doing a tester. And so I had moved from my comfy office all the way to a high rise in downtown. And I kind of was just like, wow, I'm not really enjoying this drive. But I was having lunch downstairs one day and there was probably 100 people in this very hustle and bustle downtown restaurant. And I noticed this really tall dude walking around and just kind of going, and I just kind of looked at him and I was just following him in the whole room, watching him. And I'm like, if he panics, we're going to have a problem. Like I could see he was struggling a little bit. And so I said, okay. And then boom, he steps into that like he couldn't breathe, but I saw it. Nobody else saw it. So I quickly was like, okay, I mean, a really tall guy, because there's no way I can do Heimlich like on him. I'm like, there's no way. So I like grabbed the tallest guy and I was like, you need to help him right now. He's choking. and you need to call 911. And so like I orchestrate this whole, because I do really well under pressure. And he kept doing, I'm like, harder. He's not getting it out. And I'm like screaming and telling him like, hurry, hurry. And boom, it pops out. And the guy just kind of looks around and goes, what the heck just happened? He tells the guy, thank you. And I'm just standing there. He walks back to the table and tells 6 people he was having lunch with that didn't even notice the guy was choking. And he goes, I was just joking. You could see him going like this. And they're all like, what? Panicking, going, what just happened? And I thought, was I here for 6 months for this one moment? Totally fine. Not a wasted time for me. Hey, if I had to see this right now, because, there's always those little moments in life. So whenever you're in a place and you're like, oh my God, I made the wrong turn and I was supposed to go here and I just wasted and I just missed a flight or I just, spent too much money here. Or I just blah, 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 blah. Ooh, it's all orchestrated, baby.
All
It's
orchestrated.
all imperfection. It's just all imperfection.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love that. In the right place at the right time. Maybe they stuck you there a few months early, but it was all leading up.
I,
And
I mean, I really thought about it. I was like, was I here because of that? Like, we could have done this. Like, maybe I would have met someone for lunch over here. I didn't have to do that 6 months, but who knows, right? It all works out.
oh, I'm sure there was so much more for you in there. But if you think about that, when you meet somebody and for the first time and this turns out to be a pivotal person for you or a very important person for you, think about all the things that had to go right for that to happen and for you to line up with that person. And
Right.
I've heard stories where it's like, well, I had it happen myself where I live in the same small itty bitty town. And I met one of my spiritual teachers who also lives in this small itty bitty town, but I didn't know it. I met her in a town, I met her in Portland, which was, probably about a 40-minute drive from where I live. We went to watch this woman speak. She speaks Lyran and was a spiritual teacher. And so we're sitting there listening to her, and she's like, at some point she says where she lives, and I'm like, what? I live in Banks. I live there. And it was just mind blowing that never ever did I cross her path in this little town at the grocery store, whatever. We didn't find each other. We didn't connect. I had to go and she had to go into, 40 minutes into town, into the city to meet. And then we were friends from there on out. But how crazy is that? So all the things that had to go right for us to finally meet, just to realize we lived a mile away from each other.
Right. Right. I've met people that are just, you know, either just moving right out of my town and like meeting them like a day before they leave or a week before they leave. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we met before you left.
Yeah.
Or, just the timing and the synchronicities of everything. You can't make it up. It's always perfect.
Yeah. Or we hear lots of stories, right? Where with QHHT, we hear your life story. So I've had so many people sit down, they'd be talking to me about how they met their spouse, and then they'd be like, yeah, turns out we grew up in the same little town. We were going to school at this place at the same time. We were doing, and all these things that were parallel, but they never met. And you won't
Right.
meet until it's the right timing. But look how close they were the whole time. And I hear those kind of stories all the time. It's like, you're not going to meet that person or recognize that person until it's the right timing. So
Until you're ready, right? When you're ready,
yeah. Yeah.
you're ready, or they're ready, or the universe is ready. It's just so many things that come into play behind the background, right? It's just like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
magical world. Yeah, it's amazing talking about all these topics. We always
I
have
know.
such fun and amazing topics, Tracy. I swear.
We went a little rogue from our original theme, but
A little rogue,
this is
just
what
a
happens
little.
when Sabah and I start chatting. It's like, tell
We
me
could,
something.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, no, this is fun. We'll probably jump on and talk about something when our higher selves give us message, hey, we need to do a video on something. And we
Yeah.
both tune in with each other and say, does this feel right? Yeah. Okay, let's do this video. And
Good.
then pretty much you and I just step out of the way and let let them take over as far as our higher perspectives. And we just kind of cover the topics, and hopefully it will fall on the ears of someone that needs to hear it.
That's right. And if you're being harassed by a fairy or no,
Call Tracie, not Sabah.
just
Don't
go,
call.
go
I
find
don't
out
want to
why.
hear. I don't want to
Find
hear
out
about
why.
it.
Yeah, just say, I'm sorry, what's happening? Why are you?
If it's an alien, I want to hear about
Call
it.
somebody.
Okay,
Call somebody.
call me.
Call
I'm
us
all
both.
about. Huh?
Let's get in a three-way. We'll talk about it. But, you know, we love our
Exactly.
ETs.
Yeah.
We love the benevolence.
It was
Thank
amazing.
you for having me. Yeah.
I really had fun as always. It's great having you on the channel. And if you would like to book a session with Tracie, I will have her information below. Whether it's QHHT or it's activation, ascension activation, and what's the and ascension
Session
activation? And the
or a reading with Daniel, which is Daniel is the name of my Arcturian. So
correct.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a few things I offer there. Yeah.
Yeah, which is also very activating. So they're both amazing.
QHHT is in person. I'm in Oregon, about 40 minutes off from the Portland airport or Forest Grove, if that helps. There.
And Tracie is my West Coast friend. Everyone needs one if you live on the East Coast, so that when you call them, it's on a perfect timing. And
this woman never sleeps because she'll call me at 9 o'clock at night and she's on the East Coast. And I'm like, it's your midnight. What are you doing?
what are you doing up, Sabah? I'm like,
Go
hey
to
girl,
bed.
that's why I got a West Coast friend so that I can call you at your 9 o'clock because all my East Coast friends are sleeping.
Yeah, they're all in bed. I need a West Coast. Yeah.
So, and if you're looking to do a session in the East Coast, you can reach out to me.
Tell them.
I'm in Florida.
It's a
Business alchemy consultation.
Business alchemy consultation. And she's very psychic, you guys. So don't let her get away with telling you anything else.
No, what do you mean?
What
are you talking about?
Yeah, talk about you. And she has beautiful QHHT sessions. So if anything, you're in you're in the Fort Lauderdale,
Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a destination place, right? Who doesn't want to go there?
Yeah.
So destination sessions. I like it.
Party in Miami at night, and then in the morning come in for session.
And she'll talk all about it.
And find out that you were in a multi-dimensional reality in that party.
Always. Yeah. We live extraordinary lives. Let's start paying attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, all right, girl, we're gonna hang up now.
We're gonna keep going. We're just gonna keep going, you guys. It's like the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour show.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks guys. It was amazing. And I hope you enjoy this. Again, we'll have our information on the bottom. Thanks.